welcome to Culture Critic live at the Morpeth. A pathetic delay, may I say. OK, we've got not one, not two, but three fantastic legends from the music industry with us for this cracking show. We have got one of the most prolific musicians from the last 15 years, who, in my opinion, made one of the most important pop songs. We're talking about Jarvis Cocker, ladies and gentlemen. Plus, Jeff Travis from Rough Trade and Jeanette Lee. You ready, Tiger?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
The first one is Sheffield, Jarvis, Sheffield.
Yeah.
It might be...
What do you want to know about
Well, I just want to know what it was like. What it was like growing up in Sheffield. I grew up in the south of England, and that was boring. Sheffield at least can't have been boring because you had...
No, actually, I would take issue with you there. It was intensely boring. But I think that actually was a positive thing, because... when things are boring, then you kind of have to invent something to amuse yourself. And I've always resented the fact that I was 17 and 18 in the 80s when suddenly everything just went like that, and it became very depressed up there, and Sheffield kind of closed down. It didn't have any real reason to exist anymore because it was a steel-producing place, it was an industrial city, that's why it got to that size. And then industry disappeared, so there's all these people going... Why do I exist?
Yeah.
You were left in this thing, and you just thought, well, I'm not just going to lie down and die. I'm going to have to make something. I did feel a bit cheated. You know, I'd grown up, watching Star Trek and hearing stories about the 60s and the 70s, and, and punk happened. So I thought, well, punk happened when I was 13, so I thought, wow, this is good, musical movements, explosions. This is, I can't wait till I'm old enough to join in. And then when I was old enough to join in, it just went, you can't get a refund, so you go out and do stuff. So you just buy cheaper drugs or cheaper drink and whatever.
On that note, you said you grew up with Star Trek. I was wondering...
Sorry, grew up with
You
what?
said you grew up
You've got a bus going by.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
I was wondering what you thought of William Shatner's cover of Common People.
Oh, right, yeah.
Were you honoured?
Well, yeah, because I was obsessed with Star Trek as a kid and kind of believed it was true. Yeah, it was a bittersweet moment when I heard that William Shatner had done a version of that song. Because one half of me was very, very proud that one of my childhood heroes was singing his song. And I do like his delivery. I think it's got, and she just smiled and held my hand and all that kind of thing. But then I didn't think it was the greatest record ever made. Better him than, who am I going to insult now? David Hasselhoff.
So you're not tempted to move back from Paris with your child and set up in Sheffield again?
Well, Sheffield's changed.
It is nice now.
No, but it's changed now. No, but now it has changed, and post-Arctic Monkeys and stuff like that, there's loads of bands. Like when I left Sheffield, I'm not trying to do that Yorkshireman sketch, things were bad in my time. But when I left Sheffield, to be in a band, you may as well just said, I wank dogs off or something like that. It really was kind of the shittest thing. It wasn't respected at all. And now, I really noticed it because I was walking through the city centre and I saw signs up outside places, and they're actually, saying, bands needed. So it's absolutely flipped round. It's like they actually want... They've seen that live entertainment is something... They value it, whereas before it was just like you were the lowest of the low.
So if Sheffield had an impact on your work, which it clearly did, is being in Paris. So when a fine artist moves to another city or another part of the country, you can often see it in their work. Does the same apply with you in music, moving to Paris, setting your life up there?
Yeah, it's affected me in the same way as when I moved from Sheffield to London, when I finally escaped Sheffield. That made me write about Sheffield more, because suddenly I could somehow seem to see Sheffield more clearly. I must get my glasses looked at. And I think it's the same thing, when I moved to France, I kind of realised the way their society works is different to over here. They have political demonstrations every Thursday.
And it is more relaxed. With a child, it's an easy place to have a child. They can, you can wander around.
Yeah, but then you find yourself missing the rough edges in a way. Like you find yourself in the centre of Paris on a Friday night. It's like in London on a Friday. Any city in the UK. It's whatever. And in Paris, it's like. In one way, you're thinking, yeah, it's safe. I'm not going to get smacked, but there's kind of some energy missing some way. And I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's very, very different.
Yeah. What would you consider yourself, Jarvis, first and foremost? Because I know you do all of this stuff. A singer, a songwriter, musician, performer.
Well, as a singer, I'm not amazing.
Oh, we got a question.
Oh, he hasn't finished this one yet.
Go on.
No, he only was pausing to think. No,
help me out.
No, I don't want to.
Tell me what I am.
I was just going to say, or producer, because of course you
just complicated it. You made it work. He's struggling with the 4 I gave him.
I'm certainly not that. Maybe a songwriter in a way, but then I do really enjoy performing because that's the bit where it stops being. Well, that's where it can actually be alive, you know what I mean? Where you actually kind of act the songs out, and while you're singing them, it's where they're the most kind of potent or whatever. When you're making a record, that's always frustrating because you've got like this picture in your mind of like, yeah, this is the best song ever written. This is going to blow everybody else out of the water or whatever. This is the ultimate. And it's always this thing of worrying about whether you're getting across what you first saw in that song or whether you've captured it or is the bass too loud? So I find making a record quite a stressful experience, although you have to do it if you want people to hear your stuff. When you're live, you can kind of just forget about that and just kind of get into acting it out and people are there, and so you can kind of really direct bits at them. I'll tell you this, and whatever, and then they flinch or they come forward to, and so you feel that it's something real.
And because you missed when you were just writing for people, you had a small period where you were just writing for other people. You missed the performing aspect, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought I could. When I moved to Paris, I thought, I'm going to mist and mature, keep it at a safe distance. You're 40 years old. Take a long, hard look at yourself. Be sensible, just write songs for other people, keep it at arm's length. And I realised I couldn't do that.
I just wanted to ask one question about Glastonbury. A friend of mine was a trumpet player, and he said he was physically knocked back 6 or 7 feet when he went on that stage and the roar goes up, and he had to catch his breath before he could start playing. Do you agree? Is there something extraordinary about playing at Glastonbury? Was there something extraordinary in your mind about that moment?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a moment that I'll never experience again, because it was also the first kind of physical manifestation of the way that things had changed for Paul. Because Common People only came out in May, and then Glastonbury's in June, so it was like a month later. We knew it had been in the charts, so we'd seen it, we'd looked at it in Music Week, and number 2, great. But that was the first time when you kind of realised that it had connected with people, because people sang the song back really loud. And that was, like, you say about your friend with the trumpet and he kind of catch his breath. I was really scared that I was going to forget the words or something, especially because they seemed to know them right well. So they would really, be able to tell if you fluffed it. But
Jarvis, Jeff, Jeanette, you've been fantastic. Thanks very much.